Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you guys being here today and listening to us tell a few stories. This is a wonderful event. I want to first start off by saying how much I appreciate Equestricon, the founders, the two Dans, as I like to say in particular, who I've communicated with the most. But what we have here is a special event, and I hope everyone appreciates that. Please visit every booth that's in the back. Everyone here not only has the same passion I do for this industry, but 99.9% of the time that passion is also for the horse. There isn't anybody in this business that I know of that gets into this business for any other reason than the passion of the horse. So first off, myself, just a little bit more of an introduction. I appreciate Umberto. I am the CEO for the National HPPA, but it's been a long road to get here. I had a little bit of a compliment in the back before I stepped up that my resume I didn't look as old as my resume reads, so I appreciate that, Abel. I started basically on the backside in 10th grade, high school, growing up in Louisiana. I grew up on a cattle farm, and ultimately my goal was to be a veterinarian. Well, luckily for me, I had a cousin who was a veterinarian, and lo and behold, he owned the largest private practice of equine practitioners in Louisiana, so, you know, he had to hire family, and so I went to work for him. And so, for me, the path, I know a lot of you guys hear the term on the backside, going the wrong way. For me, going the wrong way took a little bit of time to understand. But as I started working on the backside of training centers in Louisiana, and particularly Benton, if anybody knows where Louisiana Downs is, that was the original site for Louisiana Downs. And so I began working for a few trainers and also my veterinarian cousin who had a facility there. And, you know, what I learned is going the wrong way took me back to something my father had said. As I mentioned, you know, I wanted to be a veterinarian. I had a scholarship offer to play college football. Again, luckily, an injury kept me from going to the University of Arkansas, and so I went on to LSU, Louisiana State University at home. Started in pre-vet, right, like a lot of us have done, and ultimately that conflict, as you would say, with organic chemistry told me that I didn't want to be a veterinarian. And so luckily for me, I had a great advisor. I could tell stories about Dr. Dennis French all day long. For me, it was a learning of what can you do in this industry outside of being a veterinarian. And for me, I had a hard time knowing that the way I was brought up. But he opened my eyes. I ended up working at the veterinary school. I managed 2 herds of veterinary research horses there. And so my father did not like hearing, "I'm not going to be a vet, Dad." "What are you going to do?" "Well, I'm going to work with horses. I'm going to be on the management side. I'm going to continue the progress on." To say he was disappointed is probably an understatement. But nonetheless, I graduated from LSU. And for me, learning about going the wrong way ended up being the direction that led me to where I am today. So growing up in Louisiana, especially at Louisiana Downs, you know, my icons were Frank Brothers, Bobby Barnett, Mr. Gene Norman, Larry Robideau, guys that had big stables back then, but they knew how to do it right, and they knew how to do it in order that they were going to be winners. And so learning from those kind of guys was so beneficial in not only working with horses on a day-to-day basis, but in the position that I work now. Because without question, whatever I do, whatever decision that I try to lead my board or the National HPPA or working with the other horsemen's representative groups, we have to make sure we're doing what is right for the horse first. And so there's a lot of ways that we got there. The shed row is where, I always tease and say to my wife, it's where I learned how to be a perfectionist. Now, she lies and says that I'm not a perfectionist, but I continue to tell her that I am. But that's where my routine came from. When you see a shed row like this, I mean, this is what I grew up on, basically from 10th grade all the way through college. This is what my striving goal was, to have the best looking area possible. Even comedic in ways, to this day in some of my positions, my office staff would come in and change my desk around just to make sure that I was normal. Then I'd have to change it back, of course. But the shed row defines consistency, it defines a routine, and it is my normal. And if you think about that, that's what horses need. Horses need to have routine. They want to be calm, collected. And in all honesty, if you've been around horses enough like I have, they want to please you. And those horses then make a connection with you. And so the connection is the part that you make with the horse in your mind. But in reality, that connection works both ways, because the connection that horse develops with the people that are working with them, it's undeniable. If anybody here yesterday was able to hear James speak during the TAA OTTB talk, it was one of the more powerful things that I've heard in a long time. Now, I would tell you that I grew up the son of a Marine, very proud of military, what the military does for us. But to have him talk about the connection that he had with butter, it touched me probably as much as any of the events that I've been to. And for that, I very appreciate it. So I'm sure this will all be on video at some point. You've got to watch his talk. But the connection that we develop with horses, one of my favorites, well, let me first say that I've had the opportunity to work for a lot of great operations. I've developed connections in my mind. Red Bullet. Everybody always asks me, what's your favorite horse that you've ever worked with? Without question, Red Bullet, who won the 2000 Preakness, was my favorite horse. This was the year my son was born. I had just started working for Adena Springs. I was in heaven. I was what I was striving for. So he was one of my first yearling crops. So without question, Red Bullet is my favorite. But, developing relationships with Ginger Brew, Ginger Punch, being able to raise both Macho Uno and Perfect Sting, who won the first filly mare turf that the Breeders' Cup put on, but to raise 2 Breeders' Cup horse winners in the same day and to have my hands on them from when they were born all the way up, that's a connection that doesn't get broken. One of the other things that I would love for everybody to experience, my connection with Thunder Blitz. Thunder Blitz was a horse that ran in the Derby in 2001, and I had raised him. He was a son of Macho Uno. Son of Holy Bull, just like Macho Uno. And, getting to that Derby was an amazing experience. Working with a horse that makes it into that gate is a connection that you can't really explain. And then walking the backside to the front side with a horse that you raised, you had a part of, and again, that connection. It's undeniable. And it's something for me that I'll never forget. And it's one of those things that when you get it, when you folks who have horses and you understand it, you'll understand it. And those guys on the backside every day, they develop those connections. And those connections are important to the horse, that's important to their quality of life, and it's important to the person's quality of life. So I've got a picture of Justify here. I think everybody knows who he is. But for me, it's a little play on words and justification. So why do we do it? Why do a lot of us get up early in the morning, way before most people do? We're at the racetrack, we're at the barn, at the breeding shed. Why do we do it? And that picture kind of displays it for me. It's that competitiveness, that want to, and in my mind, being a horseman, you can see that horse wants to please who's there. That's what does it for us. And to have that feeling of justification when, you know, as a personal breeder, the best horse I ever bred won an allowance race at Lone Star Park. Now, I've worked with multiple Breeders' Cup winners, and that's amazing. But when my filly, Speedy Butterfly, won an allowance race at Lone Star Park, you would have thought that I'd won the Triple Crown. That's the connection. That's the connection that I'd love for everybody to feel at some point. And in this business, justifying will get you there, and working hard and having the right people in place, it's an amazing experience. So improving your quality of life, just like improving the horse's quality of life, that to me is the passion of this business. So in the end, walking away into the sunset, again, for me, it's never about me. What we do is for the horse. What we try to convey to the fans, to the public, is that the horse is the most important thing in our business. So with that, thank you all for being here.